Hackers is great. It's a wonderfully exciting and sexy techno thriller. It's got solid performances and a fun, albeit not super realistic, depiction of the hacking counterculture. It tries so hard to make hacking seem sexy and action packed, and honestly, it mostly succeeds. In reality, though, it's anything but. Hacking, that is. If you want realistic depictions of hacking, watch Mr. Robot.
Hollywood hacker bullshit. I've been in this game 27 years. Not once have I ever come across an animated singing virus.
I've yet to fly through a Tron City directory structure.
If you want Technicolor fun, watch Hackers. That's the best thing about Hackers, is you can know that it's completely unrealistic or not, and it's just as fun. Hackers is a movie where you can watch it for about 3 seconds and know exactly when it was made. It's one of the most 90s movies out there. In fact, it might be the most 90s movie. From the computer tech to the costumes to the soundtrack, everything about it is quintessential 1995. When I saw this in theaters way back in the day, I remember thinking that they were trying a little bit too hard to make it seem cool, to appeal to the youth of the day. And that's one of the things, is when you have people in their 20s and 30s trying to write for what they think teenagers think is cool, you always get this kind of skewed view as to what actually was cool at the time. You see it in all movies about teenagers, from The Lost Boys to The Breakfast Club to Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's only in retrospect, years later, that these films actually feel like snapshots of an era. Which they are, but they're completely exaggerated to the point where everything feels like caricatures. And if you didn't actually live through the time period that these films are referencing, then you might not know just how exaggerated and wrong that they really are. This is all just cultural anthropology, though, and it's ultimately beside the point and just a curiosity about the film. Visually, this film is great. Lots of extreme close-ups with quick edits and some kinetic camera work. I kind of think of it as the kiddie version of Strange Days. One of my favorite shots in the movie is early on, where we've got an overhead of New York City and it transitions from skyscrapers into diodes and transistors as you're watching information travel down these pathways, and it looks just like cars traveling down streets. Super cool. It's a great shot among many, and I don't think that this film actually gets enough credit for how stylish and inventive visually that it actually was. Sure, there was some rough CG, but it was 1995, and it actually works towards the film's cyberpunk aesthetic. This film has a lot of character actors of varying notoriety who all had memorable roles in something else. At least, that's how I see it. Sick Boy from Trainspotting, Tintin from The Crow, Bunk from The Wire, Stu from Scream, that guy from Short Circuit, although not in brownface this time, the Shrink from The Sopranos, that one guy from NCIS, the woman from The Newsroom. It's a Canadian show, look it up, it's great. Penn Jillette for some reason, and of course, Angelina Jolie, the biggest name in the film, and she went on to become quite the star, right? And they all give slightly hammy, over-the-top performances.
Yeah, sure.
If they'd pulled back a little bit, it wouldn't have worked as well. It's kind of an over-the-top cyberpunk future film, and everything is just a little bit heightened in it. So while there is definitely some kind of cringy moments,
Look at that pooper, man!
it ultimately does work. As I mentioned before, hacking is not a spectator sport in the least, yet somehow this film makes it work. How does it do this? Fudging the truth, that's how. Along with pounding techno, quick edits, some tech jargon, kinetic camera work, some fake-ass GUIs, and hope that the audience doesn't know how unrealistic and fake all of this is. It worked for me as a 10-year-old seeing it in the theater because it's fast, loud, and shiny, and I didn't understand the limitations of what computers could do at the time. It works for me mostly 30 years later because I can appreciate the craft behind it. Visually, it's still exciting, and I don't think that I really appreciated how well done that side of it really was until watching it more recently. The soundtrack to this film is awesome and plays an integral role in the film's success, and features a who's who of electronic music acts of the day. The Prodigy, Orbital, Underworld, Carl Cox, and Leftfield, among others, all feature prominently in the film. And I don't think there was an actual proper score, but there didn't need to be when there was just this many, I guess you'd call them bangers. If you're not a techno fan, then you probably won't appreciate it as much as I do. But if you are, then it'll serve as a blast from the past. And it actually was a fairly accurate representation of what you might hear at kind of a cool nightclub at the time. So there's that. It's honestly one of the best soundtracks of all time, and I still rock some of these tracks on a fairly regular basis. I may or may not even still have an Orbital CD in my car right now. The fashion in this film was a super interesting minor detail to me. When most people think of the clothes of the 90s, the fashions, they think of flannel, mushroom cuts, and like baggy jeans, baggy torn up jeans. And this is the other side of the fashion coin. Most of our main characters' clothes are fairly well fitted and feature flamboyant, bold, wild patterns. And when I think of hackers and computer nerds, that's not exactly what I think of. I think of hoodies and jeans, not leather and leopard print. And that was an interesting part of the movie. These characters are all outsiders who have found each other somehow. And it kind of makes sense that they would probably all have some of the same sort of psychological tendencies. They're all living the outlaw lifestyle in one way or another, and they might have a proclivity when it comes to their individuality in terms of the way they look. You can see this especially in the scenes taking place in the high school. All of our main characters dress completely different from all the real teens in the background. All the real teens have this boring cookie cutter off the rack aesthetic going on for them, whereas our mains are all they're all the obvious rock stars. It was also kind of interesting and sort of progressive in the androgyny in the way our main characters dress. Like, you could have swapped Johnny Lee Miller and Angelina Jolie's clothes, and it wouldn't have seemed out of place at all. You wouldn't blink an eye. Hell, you could have turned any of the main hacker characters into female characters and left them in the same clothes and no one would notice. And that kind of gender fluidity would go on to play a major role in The Matrix just a few years later. And while I don't think that it was necessarily intentional in this film, it still did lay the groundwork down. Just something that I found kind of interesting about the movie. When it comes to the tech side of the film, I think they had just the right balance of fact and fiction. You never need to know all that much about how any of the hacking is operating, just why it's happening. And it's that insight that I thought was clever when it came to writing the screenplay, is most people don't care how this works, just that it works. And it makes it more accessible for a mainstream audience. It doesn't alienate people who are computer illiterate. The romance angle between our main characters took on an interesting arc in this film. Often, the boy and girl will become an item and hook up midway through the movie, and then the bad guy will kidnap the girl, and the guy has to become the knight in shining armor coming to rescue the damsel in distress. This film didn't do that. They treated Angelina Jolie and Johnny Lee Miller as equals. they had the same amount of talent as Hackers. And the romantic tension is only broken after the action climax of the film. And it's in the closing credits that we get the romantic resolve that the whole film has been building towards. And it's clever to have the Hackers acting as a unified front against the bad guy, instead of having Miller be the traditional lone male action hero type. So all in all, I just found this movie to be a blast. Sure, there's a lot of nostalgia mixed in there for me, but I still think that it holds up as a solid film. And if you're looking for a solid 90s cyberpunky action thriller type thing, this is among the best of the era. And I think that it has rightly earned its status as a minor cult classic. And I'm going to rate it at a 4 out of 5. So those are my thoughts on Hackers. Please leave yours in the comments. While you're here, if you want to like and subscribe, that would be super duper. After all, it is quick, free, and relatively painless. Helps me out. Thanks for watching me talk about movies for a little while, and you can tune in next time to see what else Johnny likes.